All right, good morning. My contemplation this morning is the continuation of what I started last time. And that's talking about rethinking Nigerian trade policy. The minister have already set out on what she wants to do, which is fantastic. And I talked about the three areas. If you want to, I don't want this video to be too long. If you want to get the part 1, just check on the YouTube channel, you'll find it. But my focus this morning is to continue what I started last week. Now, there are 9 points that the minister put together on trade. Remember, there are different areas. It's Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, but I'm focusing on the trade aspect. And last week, I talked about the first one. I didn't finish, and I will finish that today. That's revised trade investment strategy, laws, regulation, and policy for export-led and retention-focused economy. There is championing regional trade agreement. I'll talk about that later on. Championing implementation of digital trade. I'll talk about that later on. Regulator synergy to improve market access. Support and champion of free trade zone. Drive WTO trade facilitation reform. Enter into preferential trade agreement with key countries. Support export compliance and standardization. Optimize and streamline export procedure and documentation across key agencies. So these are the different pillars or areas that the government, Minister of Trade, used to tackle that particular area, just solving trade problem in Nigeria. Solving trade problem, particularly export problem. So last week I talked about the policy framework and enhancing trade agreement. Now today I'm looking at rethinking trade and investment strategy, part 2. The first thing I'll talk about today is streamlining regulation. If we want to grow our trade in Nigeria, we must streamline regulations. You know, sometimes we are trying to solve a problem. In the kind of solving a problem, we create another one. We have regulations, right? But the regulations are not very friendly in the way we go about it. So, for example, if I'm exporting from Nigeria now, I would deal with, and I've counted this before, about 16, 17 documents. 16, 17 documents that I will have to deal with if I'm exporting from Nigeria. From NXP, pro forma invoice, certificate of origin, next receipt, invoice, packing list, bill of lading, Inspection Act, Joint Inspection Document. I've already counted 9. MPA has its own, NDLE, SSS, SGD, CCI. That's 11 already. Now, that's why I love the idea of the single window. At least we can ensure we fully digitalize this, because currently we say we are digitalizing, but we are not digitalizing because it's partial digitalization, which is good, only that we need to do it fully. When we do it fully, it's going to help us to ensure that at the end of the day, if I start a process, I finish everything online. The only thing that will make me to see anybody physically is for inspection of the goods. It's for inspection of the goods. We need to reduce the number of documents. NXP, pro forma invoice, next receipt. And all other agencies, all the government agencies should be one document. All of them sign off on one document. All of them, one document. And maybe one other document for terminal and port and MPA and the like. So at the end of the day, we have just 5 documents, apart from the bill of lading, invoice, and packing list that is going abroad. 5 documents that we're going to deal with. Now, the reason for this is to simplify the process and make it faster. Simplify the process and make, so when my goods get to the port, I should be able to get it sorted on time. Because I'm able to get these documents sorted on time, I can do shipment on time, I can have more shipment. So reducing bureaucratic hurdles. In fact, in simplifying regulatory process, I will also recommend strongly there should be a way to escalate. If I submit my document and you are supposed to approve in a day and you have not done it, I should be able to escalate to a higher authority who will be able to know what is going on and be able to ensure you do your job. Another thing, if I'm going to rethink in rethinking Nigerian trade and investment strategy is incentive for exporters. Incentive in terms of subsidies. Of course, you'll be subsidizing production or subsidizing consumption. Subsidies. Many developed countries have subsidies. China have subsidies. US have subsidies. Why do people give their farmers, their manufacturers, their exporters subsidy? They need to reduce the cost of export. They need to be able to encourage people to export to generate more foreign exchange and create more jobs back at home. In Nigeria, we have the Export Expansion Grant. There is tax exemption for exporters, but we also have Export Expansion Grant that is supposed to support exporters, but you have to queue up for it. The one that CBN did the last time shows us that we can actually do this in a way that when I finish exporting, I can easily just submit my request, and within a quarter, 3 months, I get credited. I get paid for whatever support the government wants to do, give me. What that means is that it's going to encourage, if government do incentive and it's not a lip service without corruption, and there is incentive really for exporter, because of the volatility in exchange rate now, it's not encouraging export. It's coming down. It needs to be stable to be able to encourage export. But what government should be doing is to encourage exporter, because some exporter actually had a loss in December because the rate moved down when CBN started a new policy. Now, in that kind of arrangement, because government need to bring down the rate, which makes a lot of sense. But because some exporter have already planned with the higher rate, now they are selling at the lower rate and they are not able to do forward with the bank. But there's no safety net for them. Those kind of exporters are supposed to have safety net, such that at the end of the day, because if they keep exporting and having losses, what that will happen because of the rate coming down, what that will happen is that it's going to discourage people. So basically, the idea is this. Have you ever wondered why some country, in spite of war in those countries, people are still shipping there? The reason people are shipping there is because the government of the exporter is encouraging them to ship there, even though it's a war-torn country, because they give them export credit insurance. They also have access to ship fund. The export credit insurance basically ensure that they are able to export to those countries, and the proceed is insured. That means the payment is insured. That means if the payment does not come, the government will pay them. They need to keep the job back at home. In fact, one of the strategy of what's the name of China right now is to give cheaper credit to exporters and to increase export incentives, export credit insurance. They want their people to export to other locations. Since US is increasing tariff, go to other countries. We'll give you export credit insurance. That means if you don't get paid, if there's an issue because you are going to the new market, we will pay you. We will support you. The idea is to keep the factory going at home, keep the factory working at home. So export credit insurance, access to credit. Now, the credit asset we have, Nexim behave like commercial bank because of regulation of CBN. It should be such that I shouldn't go to CBN. I'm sorry, Nexim. And from Nexim, it's like I'm dealing with a commercial bank. Nexim should be able to give me facility with a more lenient terms, not to be reckless in lending, but not as strict and rigid like commercial banks. Because Nexim is supposed to be Nigerian Export-Import Bank. That means they need to know how to be able to use the goods as collateral and leveraging on trade finance instruments without asking for tangible collateral to be able to give a single-digit loan to exporters. And then invest in infrastructure. We need the rail to be more functional to deliver goods to the port. People need the rail system should be connected to all the dry port from Kano to Kaduna to Edo State, and I think there's one in Osun State and Oyo State, and even in Ogun State. All the dry port, so that if I want to export, I don't need to carry my container to Lagos. I just move it to a nearby station, rail station, close to. I do the export clearance at a dry port that a rail station pass through, a railway pass through, and the railway can pick it up. The train can pick it up and take it straight to the port. That way, I will reduce cost of moving goods to the port because rail is moving it. And I will reduce the losses and the cost I even incur in doing insurance, moving the goods to the port. Infrastructure. For example, in the South, In the Southeast, we need port infrastructure to encourage, because Southeast does not do a lot of export, much as they do import, and they have capacity to do export. But there are not enough port infrastructure to be able to encourage that to happen. Port infrastructure and rail infrastructure to be able to. That more importantly, like I said last time, we need to increase the number of exporters. And that will only be possible by making people become export ready through capacity building. So there must be aggressive capacity building for export readiness, covering 15 areas of readiness. The promoter needs to be ready. The product needs to be ready. He needs to learn about pricing, the presentation of the staff, the purpose for going global, promotion capacity, proficiency in managing export business, positioning the business for export, payment, and being able to promote, including the potential of the product. Understand the people in the export market. All these are very important. Getting purchasers in the export market, having a partner in the export market. The export readiness is, I think, is one of the most critical area of focus if we want to increase export volume. The major exporters have reached their peak. They are not doing new investment. If we are going to grow export, we need to bring in new people into the sector to be able to export more. When you bring in new people, the new people you are bringing in are able to increase the volume of export. They are able to increase the volume of export. So capacity building, particularly for SMEs, and support for product development and market diversification. Support for product development and market diversification. Policy that discourage export of raw materials and encourage value addition. And like I said the last time, we need processing plant across Nigeria. For example, for a particular product in a particular location, we have processing plant in that location to be able to process that good. So for example, in Southwest and South where we have a lot of cocoa, we can have cocoa processing plant, public-private partnership, in which Nigeria can take their cocoa in and convert cocoa butter and pay a fee and then export cocoa butter. And I talked about the fact that we need to concentrate more on intermediate product rather than finished product. Intermediate product rather than finished product. Finished product, the demand is not as high because many countries want intermediate and raw. Some European countries don't want raw because of the environment. So can we concentrate on intermediate so we can increase how much we are earning from these goods? About 50% of global trade, that's over $12 trillion, is on intermediate product. Raw material about 25% and finished good about 25%. So we can specialize from cocoa to cocoa butter, from cashew to cashew kernel, from shea nut to shea butter, from lead to lead ingot. These are critical areas. So we need to rethink the way we go about growing our trade. Because sometimes it seems as if we focus on things that we, because if you are focused on a particular area and you can't get results, it's just okay for us to begin to look at other important areas. And one of the important areas, like I said earlier, and I'll keep repeating it, increased number of Nigerian exporter today is now up to 1,500. According to NEPC, the last time it was 1,170, even though about 15,000 companies registered. The reason only few are able to export is because of the challenge of export readiness. I will stop here today. I will continue tomorrow, and I'm talking about another area tomorrow, and that has to do with the role of Nigeria in championing regional trade. That will be the focus, my focus tomorrow on this area of ensuring that we maximize the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Thank you very much for listening to this, my contemplation on rethinking trade and investment in Nigeria. See you in the next video, and bye for now.